everyone. My name is Brian Hacker. I'm the Supervising Planner for the West Region at the Department of Planning and Development at the City of Chicago. And we are here today for an informational webinar on the Missing Middle Residential Infill Initiative that is led by our department. On our agenda today, I would just like to take a moment here to welcome everyone and thank you for your interest in this program. And before we dive into the details of the initiative, I'd like to hand it off. We have a representative here from the 12th Ward. Give them the floor briefly here to say some introductory comments. So Bill, why don't you go ahead, please?
Can you hear me? Hey, this is Bill Drew with the 12th Ward office. Just here to, answer any questions for the pieces of property in the 12th Ward. Yeah, we're just really excited for this initiative to fill in some vacant lots that we have, and seeing some of these blocks come together to supply some more housing options for the neighborhood that definitely needs more housing supply. So yeah, here to support this initiative and answer any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Bill. And also we have our DPD Commissioner, Sierra Boatwright here as well to give some introductory comments. So
Good afternoon.
Give the floor to her.
And thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. We're excited to launch our newest round of Missing Middle. I know my team has mentioned the importance of us activating our vacant lots, but more importantly, the importance of us building wealth, both for the developers and for the home buyers, and really creating the opportunities for density that our neighborhoods want, that our neighborhoods deserve, and that will help to ensure that we have thriving corridors. So I'm excited for you all to join us today, excited about all the possibilities that these new units will bring to our communities, and more importantly, just excited about us being intentional, both about wealth creation, but about repopulation in key city neighborhoods. So thank you all so much for joining. I'm gonna pass it back to Brian.
Thanks, Commissioner. And right on time here, we also have Alderman Jason Irvin, who joined us. So yeah, Alderman, why don't you take the floor here for a few comments? Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Commissioner, for the work that you all doing, as well as the team at DPD for bringing this forward. Again, I'm Alderman Jason Irvin of the 28th Ward, one of the boards that is participating in the Missing Middle program for this round. Looking forward to the development community to bring forward great ideas. I think because these, as Commissioner Boatwright stated, this is about repopulating and using areas that are already a strong stock housing and some great and desirable products to our community. I can tell you this, on the west side of Chicago, we're looking for nice stuff, clean, decent designs. It's something that's going to fit into the character of our neighborhood. We're primarily a community of graystones, and so I'm very eager to see what the development community is bringing to the table. 2 flats, 3 flats, 4 flats, see how many homes, hey, you name it, we can do it. And then those that are working, hey, if your number doesn't come up or yours isn't selected, we're always available to sit down, because we don't have an endless supply of land, but we have a decent supply of land. So we definitely want to look at all of the ideas and create opportunities for everyone. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks very much, Alderman. Okay, we can get right into our presentation here. Reshare my screen again. Okay, can everyone see that all right? All right, so our agenda for today, we've already taken care of the first item, but we'll be defining what the Missing Middle really refers to, going over the program details and the geographies for this current round of the program, go into the application process and the requirements, as well as the evaluation process, address some of the additional program details before we go into a question and answer session. And just for folks who may not have been a part of one of these in the past, the Q&A is done via the Q&A box on Zoom. So if you won't see a microphone to unmute and ask the question. We'll take everything through the chat. Some questions will be answered by text. Others will address verbally, just kind of as we can in this process here. Seems like it's a manageable audience here. We should be able to get to all the Q&A. Some of them might already be addressed on our website, but we'll do our best to manage all of that within the meeting here. So first off, this is hopefully a term that folks are becoming more familiar with now that this initiative is in its third round here. But missing middle refers to those vacant lots in neighborhoods in the city where that were previously occupied by low to mid density buildings like 2 flats, 3 flats, courtyard buildings, and types of properties that were owned by families over long periods. It helped to build wealth not just for those folks, but also in their communities, and bring a certain level of pride and stability to those communities. And these types of housing products have really been lost over decades, particularly in communities on Chicago's south and west sides, due to patterns of disinvestment and depopulation. And as of spring of this year, the city owns more than 7,000 of those residential parcels. A lot of them are clustered in neighborhoods where populations have been declining, since they reached their peak around, mid 20th century. For an overview of the Missing Middle program, this is planned as a multi-year initiative that offers those vacant city lots for residential infill housing, mainly on the south, southwest, and west sides, with incentives in the form of land write-downs to $1 per lot, and then housing subsidies of up to $150,000 per unit from the Housing and Economic Development Bond. It's anticipated to create up to 400 new buildings and up to 750 residential units through the lifetime of the program, which would go through 2028. The goal here is to really not just repopulate those neighborhoods and bring life back to some of those lots that are struggling from vacancy, but also to build community wealth and create more stable neighborhoods through these affordable home ownership opportunities. So to walk through some of the projects that have been previously approved, these images are renderings from various developers that we've selected in communities such as North Lawndale, Morgan Park, South Chicago, and West Chatham. The pilot phase launched last year in North Lawndale, and then the second round pivoted to the south side with those communities, Morgan Park, South Chicago, and West Chatham. And we've selected a number of developers and all of those community areas to take on the city-owned parcels that we marketed there. So these are just a few examples that you'll see. There's a lot of 2-flat, 3-flat style development going in on these clusters of properties in those communities. So the first area that we want to highlight for this current round of the Missing Middle and the clusters that we're marketing through Shy Block Builder is East Garfield Park. So you can see highlighted there, bounded by this rights of way there, Central Park, Madison, Homan, and Fifth Avenue is the Missing Middle general area here, where we're going to be advertising properties for the program on streets like Monroe, Adams, Jackson. So this is just to the southeast of Garfield Park, just a stone's throw away of the, lovely park on the west side here, just south of Madison Street and a little bit east of the West Garfield Park Commercial District. This is also an area that's seeing a significant amount of investment from the city, private investment, as well as other public financing sources. Some of the projects that we have called out here are the Westgate multifamily residential project at Madison and Hamlin that is anticipated to include a grocery store, Hub 32, which is another affordable multifamily residential project. It's located just immediately to the south of the Kedzie station on the CTA Green Line, and then also the Harvest Homes Phase 2, located at Jackson and Fifth, which is another affordable multifamily residential development. And it's also worth calling out that this area here is located nicely between the Green Line and the Blue Line, as well as the Madison bus route there, offering great public transit options. This map shows the two property clusters that are being offered in East Garfield Park. These both have 6 parcels in them. Cluster A is, located around, as you can see on the map here, Adams and Jackson and St. Louis, and Cluster B to the north around Monroe and Homan. These are primarily in the RM5 zoning district, although there's one parcel that's in the RT4, and none of these will be have been identified for rezoning. So the next group of clusters is in the West Garfield Park community area. So you can see the area where we'll be marketing the properties is roughly bounded by Maypole, Hamlin to the east, Van Buren to the south, and Pulaski to the west. So this is, kind of intersected here by the West Garfield Park Commercial District. Again, I already highlighted that Westgate development that's underway right now on a city-owned property in Madison and Hamlin. DPD is also in the middle of undertaking a corridor study for Madison, engaging a lot of community partners. Ultimately, we'll go to Plan Commission for adoption. It's another active project that's there. And again, this area is located nicely between the Green Line and the Blue Line CTA stations there, offering great public transit options, as well as the Madison Street bus. And in this area, we have 4 clusters of parcels. So these are C, D, E, and F. And these are all either 4 or 5 parcels, similar to the East Garfield Park clusters. None of these will be subject to rezoning. They can all be developed by right under the existing RT4 and RM5 zoning districts. So I'm now going to hand it off to my colleague Nolan Zaroff, who can discuss the opportunities in McKinley Park.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So the cluster G, the last cluster in this missing middle offering, is located in McKinley Park in the 12th Ward, just west of Western Boulevard between 34th and 35th Street. And this is really kind of complementing a lot of investment and planning work that's going on in these communities, both in McKinley Park and nearby Brighton Park to the west, including, millions of dollars worth of redevelopment, the historic renovation and redevelopment of some of the central manufacturing district buildings on Pershing Road, the Archer Avenue study that DPD is conducting in coordination with the 11th, 12th, 14th, and 23rd wards, as well as the Regional Transportation Authority, looking at how do we revitalize Archer Avenue. We've also recently conducted and completed rezoning of 35th Street between Archer and Ashland to support local businesses and new business development along that corridor. Also looking at the station areas around 35th and Archer. And we also completed and just adopted earlier this year, Stitching It Together, which looks also at how do we support communities of Brighton Park and Gage Park, and continue to work on kind of investment and supporting those communities going forward. I'll also mention that the Western Avenue Bridge, CDOT is looking to renovate and resurface that bridge, which I think everyone will be happy to see. So really building on a lot of effort, investment, and resources that are going into these communities. Next slide, Brian. And so this is a closer look at Cluster G. We're offering 4 sites, 4 parcels, but really 5 development sites. One of the parcels is a double lot, all centered on 34th Place. The 3 parcels on the north side of 34th Place will require a zoning change that went to Committee on Zoning just yesterday. So we are on target to have the rezoning completed next month before you would be redeveloping these properties. They're on 34th Place, kind of at the end, sort of a cul-de-sac there, but there's a really nice kind of tree-lined berm to the west, separating those parcels from the train tracks. And again, you're just a block west of Western Avenue and the boulevard system there. Yeah. Brian, back to you. Oh, one thing I'll mention, Kate Eakin from the McKinley Park Development Council did put in the Q&A that they are available if you're looking for additional guidance from the community. The McKinley Park Development Council is a community organization that works in McKinley Park, definitely has their thumb on the pulse of that neighborhood, and I'm sure would be happy to provide any guidance or advice that you might be seeking regarding how to best sort of approach these sites in a way that is sensitive to the community. Brian?
All right, thanks a lot, Nolan. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our section on the parcels that are available through the initiative. So we want to pivot now to the process of applying for them and discuss how we'll be evaluating and scoring those applications. So first off, I hope everyone who is on the call is familiar with shyblockbuilder.com. But if you're not, this is the city's land sale portal. So not just the Missing Middle, but all of our land sale opportunities go through this website, and it's a kind of one stop for submitting those applications and pursuing any city-owned land opportunities. Applications for the current round open on October 1st. We're not just holding this webinar today, but earlier today there was also a general Shy Block Builder webinar. These are all recorded, by the way, and they're available on the DPD website. DPD has a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, and I think that you can also view all this on Shy Block Builder. So the application deadline is on November 12th at midnight. It closes down, so please note that date so everyone can get their applications in on time. And then once the deadline closes, we'll be reviewing these applications as soon as possible. And through that process, we expect to make selections and announce awardees between December and January. Again, this is, of course, subject to circumstances and a rough timeline. So just keep that in mind when waiting for a response. And then we do also reply to everyone. So whether you were awarded a cluster of properties through Missing Middle or not, you will receive email notification either way. So for application eligibility requirements, so first off, interested developers will need to select at least one cluster for redevelopment. Please note that you can't apply for just one or two parcels that are in a cluster. We do want to see applications for all of the properties that are in the clusters as they've been decided on by the DPD. And they should also, each application needs to include a development plan that has estimates for a construction timeline, conceptual design plans, and then a preliminary budget. We understand that some of this is going to change over time, but we want to see proposals that have shown a certain amount of work up front in terms of what we can expect. Another thing that's important to note is that all applicants are expected to work with architects that are self-certified through the Department of Buildings. So you can confirm with your architect that they have met those requirements and are current. But the reason behind this is to sort of streamline the permit review process, as that process with the self-certified process is faster than not than the other alternative. Developer responsibilities include site planning, environmental remediation, securing entitlements, and then marketing and selling the properties. So sale prices for the units are capped based on the number of units that are in the building, as well as the size of those units. But the way that we determine those maximum sale prices is by applying the 140% area median income affordability for a family of 4. So we don't actually, there's no limits on the purchaser's income, but there is a limit on the maximum sale price that a developer can list the properties for. And again, it is dependent on the number of units and the size of those units. As I previously mentioned, the financial incentives involved in Missing Middle are a $1 land write-down. So this is for all of the properties that are in the cluster or in the award. And then between 50,000 and 150,000 per unit subsidy coming from the Housing and Economic Development Bond. And this cannot exceed $5 million per applicant. So that means if a developer is awarded a maybe multiple clusters, for example, and they're requesting, say $150,000 per unit, well, that's going to cap out, regardless of the number of parcels that they have, at $5 million per award. And applicants should also note that the bond funding is available as a reimbursable grant. It's not available as an upfront funding source. So the reimbursement is structured around various milestones of completion. That really depends on the number of phases that are in the project. But for example, at if it's a project where all the buildings are going to be constructed in one phase, then there would be a reimbursable milestone at 50% completion, and then again at 100% construction completion, and then again at certificate of completion, which means that all of the construction compliance requirements have been confirmed. So in terms of zoning, we are expecting developers to build all of the proposed buildings by right under either the existing zoning conditions or the zoning districts that will be, the districts that some of these properties will be rezoned to. As I mentioned before, the majority of the parcels are already zoned RM5 and RT4. Those are not expected to change. We're not pursuing rezonings on those parcels. But in the Southwest region and McKinley Park, there are the 3 parcels that are zoned M2-3 and are expected to be rezoned to RT4. And this is expected to happen at October City Council. So all of the appropriate zoning districts will be in place by the time we award projects. So just to provide an overview of what the city's goals and priorities are here, this is kind of a little beyond what the basic requirements are and important to keep in mind when you're structuring your application. DPD is looking for well-integrated family housing that's going to fit in the context of the communities. We want to promote home ownership opportunities for families with a diverse range of incomes. We want to encourage population density, as our commissioner mentioned earlier, to support those nearby commercial corridors, bring rooftops back to communities, attract new retail, down the line. It's also a priority to encourage equitable transit-oriented development. So this is development that is located within walking distance of transit amenities and is accessible to all. We also want to promote design excellence. So we're looking for projects that are using quality building materials that are fitting in the context of those communities where they'll be built. And then we're also encouraging development partnerships. So we want to see, there are some developers who are, more new to the business. There's an opportunity for them to partner with more experienced, firms or, development companies to come together and put forth a proposal and, sort of lift each other up through that arrangement. This slide's pretty dense, so we don't need to go through every single point of it in detail, but it's worth pointing out that we're being transparent about our scoring rubric, and everything is published on Shy Block Builder, so you can see how we're weighting the different aspects of the applications here and the points that we're awarding. So the first one to touch on is a proof of relevant experience. Applicants can upload, documents that show examples of their previous projects that they've completed. Ideally, new construction that's, for infill housing in the city of Chicago is great to have. It's not required, but it will, get those, help you get those points, up to 30 for that point. There's also the financial capacity and feasibility criteria. So this gives priority to projects that have clear plans and designs, realistic timelines, excuse me, proof of funding, and estimated budgets for the development. And again, there's an opportunity to upload materials in your application. Just in terms of funding, we don't expect everybody to be coming to the project with every single dollar that they need, but there's an opportunity to upload documents such as like a pre-qualification letter, a bank statement, or some other commitment of funding. There's 0 to 10 points assigned to the design quality. This is pretty straightforward. We're looking for high quality designs that address local context. For the catalytic impact and proposed density aspect, this is more or less, referencing whether applicants are trying to maximize the amount of density that they can build under the existing zoning, and increase the population, increase the number of housing units, maximize those things under the existing zoning regulations. And then last is community engagement. So this can, come in the form of a letter of support from your local alderman, or a letter of recommendation for a community group or somebody else who's a stakeholder or leader in the community. All of these projects that are awarded will require a redevelopment agreement. If you're not familiar with that, it's more or less a contract between the developer and the city to establish certain requirements that are related to, the development and completion of the project, as well as the financial incentives that are involved. This is important to note here that all of the projects that have a redevelopment agreement have to comply with the city's construction requirements. And these include the minority business enterprise and women business enterprise requirements of 26% and 6%. This is pretty consistent with projects receiving incentives. The projects will all have to comply with prevailing wage, meaning that all jobs are going to need to be paid at current prevailing wage rates. And then 50% local hiring requirements. So half the workforce needs to be Chicago residents. Another point that we want to address is the environmental review. If you go to the MissingMiddle webpage at Chicago.gov /MissingMiddle, you can download all of the available environmental documentation from the city for any of these properties. And we want to call out that this is not comprehensive, and it may vary from property to property, but we've made available everything that we have on hand through our 2FM department. It's very important to note that the city sells the land as is, where is, and in with all faults condition. So it's dependent on the developer to do the environmental due diligence and meet any remediation requirements that may apply. And applicants are solely responsible for any investigation and remediation work necessary to put the property in a condition which is suitable for its intended use of development. This slide shows the target development timeline. So I'll go through this really quickly here. As I mentioned, it'll be between December and January that applicants are selected. There will be a following period of community engagement. We'll work with the local ward offices on that, and I schedule some engagement opportunities. At the same time, we'll be working with applicants to get term sheets and redevelopment agreements drafted and get the projects towards city council introduction and then approval, which is generally a 2-month process. We expect that that'll happen in the spring between April and June. And then following city council approval will be the process of closing and groundbreaking. And we do acknowledge that not every development team will have the same timeline. But just reiterate a previous point, it's important that you offer a clear development timeline in your application so we can know what to expect. So that is the end of our presentation, and I'd like to thank everybody who joined in today to be a part of it, as well as everyone who's in attendance. And I'll stop here so we can take some questions, but please note on the screen here, my email is there in case you have any questions about the East and West Garfield Park missing middle opportunities, as well as Nolan's for the McKinley Park cluster. And then you can find just broad amount of information at the Missing Middle webpage at Chicago.gov/missingmiddle. Thank you.
Great job, Brian. Just while you've been presenting, we have been busy answering some questions that we've been receiving. So there's quite a few questions that we've answered already in a written response, but we did leave some of the questions for us to address during this Q&A period. If you want, I can help moderate this process for us. So the first question is, are neighborhood community groups consulted about which applications are accepted? I do want to note that we work closely with the alders in the ward. And then once the applications are selected, we do have a community meeting to kind of present the selected developers, or we work with the alder to determine the format of the engagement of that process after the developers are selected, so that the community can see and provide input on those proposals before they proceed to the next steps.
Thanks. Yeah, I would just add as well that there's an opportunity for folks to reach out to community groups ahead of time. I know there is a huge window for the application, but we have gotten applications before that have signed letters of support from community groups, whether it's a CDC or a block group or whoever is kind of active in that area.
That's a great point. And we did get that request from McKinley Park Group at this meeting, so that's great. Okay, the other question, can we plan to own and manage after development? Must we sell to a different entity? And the response is yes, for the Missing Middle housing program. This is not for developers who want to rent, but it is for developers to sell for owner-occupied buildings. Now, the building, if it's, let's say, a 3-flat or a 2-flat, one of the units can be occupied, the whole building can be sold, and then one of the units can be occupied by the owner, and then that owner can then rent out the other units. And so that's how the goal here is for growing community-based wealth. Does the city help expedite the OUC EFP process? We've seen that take multiple months. So the part of the program is so that the permit application is through the self-certified program, which we've been seeing those take a matter of days, weeks rather than not months. So that's why we require the team include a self-certified architect so that they can use a self-certified program, because that's a requirement of this.
Yeah, I would add that we do, DPD does coordinate with Department of Buildings and our zoning department on just making sure that, these projects move quickly. But we designed this program in a way to move as quickly as possible to get development in our neighborhoods because we need it.
Yeah. And then the next series of questions, Brian, if you could share the screen again and go back to the evaluation rubric. I think this is really important we've had several questions about developer experience. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So
Sorry,
because
I'm working
it's
on it.
okay, it's okay. So I'll just start talking and addressing this. The question is, will you consider related experience from new developers? And then also questions about partnering with more experienced developers and less experienced developers. Who should submit the application? Who should submit the application if you're working with, a partner? If you're partnering with a different entity, that's up to you. That's up to you in your partnership agreement. We just want to make sure whoever is filling in the application has, is in the best position to do so, right? So that's up to your pairing. So here's kind of where you see we are saying priority is given to applicants who form partnerships with less experienced developers, and we are for all the people who have registered for this webinar and who've agreed to share their contact information, we are going to post that in the coming days on the webpage so that you can see on there who has registered for this webinar, who's interested. We also have posted the prior 2 rounds, right? So the developers who have been selected in the other 2 rounds in North Lawndale and then on the south side of Chicago, we had it in 3 different community areas. So you can actually see those developer entity names. You can look them up. They all of them have contact information on their web pages. So you're welcome to try to reach out and do that as well on your own. We're limited, of course, on our end to do selective matchmaking. So we're trying to do this in as transparent of a way as possible. But we do look at development team experience. We do look at team composition. There was another question about what does team composition mean? This really means we want to make sure, that of course, we need to make sure the architect is a self-certified architect who's been selected by the development team. And then we look at the development team if they have done this similar type of work before, right? Building smaller scale missing middle type housing, because it's, have they done work in, knowing the Chicago building codes, knowing the zoning code, what is their expertise in this area? And the reason is because, these clusters, these lots are being sold in clusters. It's not individual lots. So we need to make sure that the development team has capacity to build multiple parcels, ideally at the same time, right? So we're trying to make it as our process as streamlined as possible. That's part of the reason why we're doing self-certified permit program, because we want the process streamlined. We're trying to get shovels in the ground, essentially. So we want to make sure that the developers that are teamed up or the developers that have applied would be ready to go, as soon as they're selected. So that's an important, and you can see that in our evaluation rubric. We have project readiness, financial feasibility, funding secured. This is to show us your ability to secure financing, because even though we're providing a subsidy, that subsidy is reimbursed, a reimbursement at different steps of the process. So, the developer still has to find financing to be able to build the project and implement the project. Okay. The next question, do awardees get title and can it be insured? In what form do awardees get title? I'm not sure what the question is exactly here. Brian, do you have thoughts on?
I'm not sure about the question with the insurance, or like where that comes in the process. But I guess it's just important to note that once we have to lay out the kind of land sale process, we will first negotiate the term sheet, which is like a precursor to a redevelopment agreement. The redevelopment agreement is the final legal document that gets executed upon closing. But once we have the draft version of the RDA, we will submit the land sale to City Council for approval, which is required before we can close on a property. So it'll be introduced 1 month. The following month, it will go to Housing and Real Estate Committee, and then it'll go to City Council for a final approval vote, and then you have an ordinance. Once that ordinance has been approved, then we can, the applicants work with our law department as well as DPD project managers to get to closing. So the important thing to note is that all the applicants need to have their permits. They need to have complete proof of financing and all of the other legal due diligence documents that I'm not enough of an expert to call out off the top of my head before you can get to that closing. So it's not a situation where we award the cluster of missing middle parcels to a developer and then we just like put the title in the mail to you. It's a process that needs to be completed following that. We do try to make it as expeditious as possible, but from some point of view, it also is what it is. You need to have approval of city council and meet all of our legal requirements as well.
Yeah, and hey, Brian, this is Christian. I
Thanks,
think
Chris.
the question might be how do we actually transfer the title, like what instrument we're using? It's going to be a quit claim deed, and I think the title is the title commitment. The applicant need to obtain a title commitment for the owner's policy from a title company. So I hope that answers the question. If that's the question, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is. 'Cause I saw, I think also Jasmine Hagan, who participated in the previous round, also answered yes. You must pull title yourself.
Thanks, Jasmine and Chris. Chris is our resident land sale expert here, so can help us with those questions. Let's see. If the clusters aren't picked up this year, will they be part of the program for the next round? The answer to that is most likely not. We did have a situation in North Lawndale where we didn't award one of the clusters of parcels. When it was marketed under Missing Middle. But if that's the case, those properties could still be available for market rate land sale, or maybe even a project through City Lots for Working Families, which is a DOH program that offers land right down for $1 for residential infill projects on city-owned land. Do we have suggested lenders to work with? No, we don't provide a list of suggested lenders. That's pretty consistent just in terms of the city not recommending any kinds of contractors or partners to work with, just out of obvious, concerns, legal concerns over favoritism and things like that. However, though, this is the kind of situation where if you partner with a developer that's done a project like this before, or even if you reach out to other developers who have worked in this realm before, I don't think that it's a huge stable of lenders that are out there for projects like this. I think there are some kind of typical partners on deals like this that you could go and reach out to. So I think that information is out there if you have somebody that you can talk to about the process who's familiar with it. So what's the estimated timetable to have the ownership transfer to developers? Also, what is the ideal time frame to begin building? 30, 60, 90 days. So I touched on that just in terms of the process that I described for closing. Let's see. I mean, we have a timetable here in our slides. So you know, we're hoping that we can get from an award, you know, to closing and a groundbreaking in roughly 6 months. If you know, folks can move the process along faster and get there sooner than that, that's great. I think it kind of depends just on the developer and you know the circumstances in some cases, but you know that you know 4 to 6 month timeline is pretty good. And then once a project is closed, you know, we're hoping that the developers can break ground more or less right away because you've got your permits approved and you can, you know, leave that closing and head to the job site. I kid, but you know, there's no other steps there, just in terms of DPD's requirements that would keep you from going and initiating the project right away.
We recognize some of the names on these questions.
Yeah, our good friend Patrick Brutus. Is design of the residential building going to be a priority for the department as an approval criteria? And if so, how much so? So yeah, Patrick, this is you know, makes up 10 points in the scoring rubric. So, you know, not quite as heavily weighted as some of the other criteria that are in the you know, scoring.
It's still very
Yeah.
important. I mean, I do want to say that it is very important, and it's part of also the team experience and composition as well, is, you know, the past projects that have been built and completed, it's kind of considered in that as well. So it's definitely something we evaluate. Thanks for the question.
Agreed. And it definitely comes up with, I mean, you heard it from Alderman Irvin earlier about just, the neighborhood has, a lot of gray stones, like having something that is contextually appropriate, that respects and engages the local architecture, but also is innovative. It's definitely something that we want to encourage and move forward. We definitely don't want to put up a bunch of, crap in our neighborhoods. There's enough of that already, and we're not going to pay for it.
Right on. Let's see, what else do we got? I thought the $1 lots were no longer available. So to answer Jacqueline's question, it just depends on the circumstances. We're not offering $1 lots for side yards or you know, in most cases not for even for market rate development, but under this program and then under the city lots for working families programs, we do offer the $1 land write-downs.
Yeah, just to add to Brian's point, he's absolutely right. We want to sell our land for market value. However, I want to stress the goal of this is to be able to develop quality units, beautifully designed units. And so what we don't want to do is add an additional burden by selling the lots for market value, which is why we're selling them for $1. And so you're not wrong in that there has been a shift from dollar sales to market sales, but this is an example of how we want to leverage every tool in our toolbox to ensure that we've got quality units coming online that are beautifully designed, that's not a burden, if you will, to either the owner or the developer because of the higher cost that the typical acquisition of the land will yield. So just wanted to kind of add an additional point to Brian's absolutely correct answer in terms of our wealth building focus and the additional subsidy that we're adding. We want that subsidy to bring down the actual to help assist with the appraised value, right? There's an appraisal gap that you inevitably may see. It costs to build no matter where you're building, whether you're building in Lincoln Park or whether you're building in Inglewood, the cost for construction is the same. And so what we really want to do is help to add that subsidy so you can ultimately sell those units affordably, right? And so adding market value sales complicates that a bit, hence the dollar sale.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Fantastic point. Yeah, and it, you know, it allows us to help encourage development in neighborhoods where, you know, we're not seeing as much of it either. So it's, yeah, that's the whole point of the incentive here. Thank you. We have another question from Autumn. If we sell as condos, are we eligible to apply for the 50 to 150K per condo? So that per unit subsidy applies to these projects, whether it's you know, a 3 flat that would say be condoed out, or if it's a situation where you want to sell to one individual buyer and then they are renting out the other units. So it can really, I think this was addressed earlier, but it can go either way. What's, you know, really important though is that it has to be at least sold to one owner occupant, regardless of the condo question. But yes, it's that per unit subsidy applies in either situation. Do we have a listing of developers once they are approved? I'm looking to purchase a new build. That's actually a really good question. As I mentioned earlier, there's you know, the program is designed so that the marketing and selling of the properties is the responsibility of the developer. However, we have listed the past recipients of the awards on the MissingMiddle website, so you could find the names of the developers there, and you could also, you know, look in the areas where they've been awarded. As of right now, none of the units are up for sale. We're, you know, about to break ground on a project in North Lawndale, so, you know, you could expect some of these to be sold probably, you know, early 2026. But, you know, you can also reach out to us at the department as well, and we could help connect you with a contact at the developers or give you that information. Let's see what else we got here. From Jonathan, he asks, is there a focus on sustainable building? It's a push from DCEO with resources focused on that. So I wouldn't say that, you know, in terms of requirements, that it's something that we're requiring, but, you know, as we discussed, we are putting a priority on the design of these projects. And obviously, you know, when we see, you know, a developer putting forth sustainable building practices and elements of, you know, that integrated into their project, that's something that we would definitely, you know, consider and, you know, reward in the scoring process. There's also a question from Lakita. Oh, she just disappeared.
Sorry, I just
Oh.
answered it because I actually the question was related to kind of timelines for completion of the project and getting it sold. There's and that's stipulated in our template term sheet, which is also posted online. And there's, you know, ability to kind of get an extension for that if there's proof that, you know, there's been an attempt at marketing the property for sale, and so there's a little bit of a more detailed explanation. I think that's more appropriate for folks to really look at more closely in the template term sheet rather than trying to go through all of the language here on this webinar, since we're close to time at this point. I think the term sheet is a really great resource too for people to really see more of the detail of the deal points. It outlines the timing for the reimbursement payments for the city assistance as well. So this is also identified just because I think everyone should really understand those issues, you know, upfront.
Okay. It looks like we're at the end of our questions. So
Yeah,
thanks,
great.
everyone.
You did a great job, Brian. I also want to point out that we actually have a very thorough FAQ online at the Missing Middle landing page as well. And then Brian and Nolan are able to have your email their emails for any additional questions you may have. But the FAQ has a very thorough responses as well as templates, marketing plan information, the template term sheet, the template escrow agreement, a template mortgage for buyers, mortgage recapture agreement for buyers as well. So there's a wealth of information there.
All right, yeah. Thanks, y'all. Everyone who's a part of it, and everyone who attended for all the good questions. And yeah, as Cindy mentioned, Nolan and I are here to continue to be resources beyond what you can find online. So we look forward to you getting all your applications and moving ahead with this, excuse me, next round of Missing Middle.
And thanks to the 12th and 20th Ward for joining too. Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks you all.
Thank you.